Welcome, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about factors and multiples. And as usual, I have a warm-up problem for you. It's called the locker problem. So there's 1,000 lockers. They're ordered from numbers 1 to 1,000. And at any given point, each locker is either open or closed. So to begin with, all doors are closed, and then we're supposed to follow the instructions. So change the state of every locker. So if it's open, close it, and vice versa. Then we change the state of every second, and then every third, and on and on and on until we hit the 1,000th locker. So our problem is to determine which locker will be open and which locker will be closed after this whole process from above. So a good tip for a problem like this is to think about the number 1,000 as kind of big. Maybe just reduce that to 10 or 20 to give yourself a starting point. So I'll let you pause the video now and think about this. The lecture today will help us solve this problem. Okay, let's take a look at some of the theory for today. Okay, so multiplying every integer by an integer n gives us the multiples of n. So you can multiply by 0 to get 0. 1 times n is n, 2, 3. You can also multiply by the negative numbers as well. So for example, all the multiples of 3 are given there. Now factors are kind of the natural opposite to multiples in a sense. So they're numbers that you can multiply together to get another integer. So a vertical bar is the symbol that mathematicians have decided to use, this vertical bar like that, to represent is a factor of. So for example, 2 is a factor of 6. And just as well, you can say 3 is a factor of 6. And in notation, we have written it right there. So it's kind of nice to think about multiples and factors in this symbolism because they're both represented. If you read from the left going to the right, you read as a factor. So 5 is a factor of 35. Or reading from the right to the left, you could read 35 is a multiple of 5. So let's take a look at an example. Maybe we have two numbers. F multiplied by n gives us m. So how could we use the symbolism from above to represent that? Well, f will be our factor of the number m. And you could also write or n is a factor of m. And if you wanted to read from right to left, you could read m as the multiple of n or f. Now, one thing to be very careful, notice in the definitions above, or even in this example, we've been talking about integers. So factors and multiples always refer to integers. So we would never write something like a quarter is a factor of 1/2, or a half is a multiple of a quarter. Even though it is true that you can take a quarter and multiply by 2 and get 1/2, that's a true equation, but we're not talking about those situations. You can always take a number and multiply it by something to get another number. But when you have integers, then you actually have a condition, whether you're a factor or not. Let's give this some practice with a bunch of examples below. So each one of the examples is either true or false, and we'll try to investigate that. So 5 is a factor of 19. So if it were, we would be able to take 5 and multiply by a number and get 19. We can sure get 20, but we can't get 19. So this one is false. Now 7 multiplied by 3 does give us 21, so that one is true. 4 is a factor of 2. If we take 4, you could multiply it by 1/2 to get 2, but remember we can't use fractions here, we're only using integers. So there's no way to multiply 4 and get all the way down to 2. So that one is false. So just notice that usually the smaller number is on the left-hand side and the bigger number is on the right-hand side, usually. There are some exceptions below, and 0 kind of creates some of those exceptions. So with 0 is a factor of 12, and think about that one for a moment. If you have 0, can you multiply by something to get 12? Well, if you multiply by 0, you're always going to get 0 no matter what the n value is, so you're just not going to get 12. So that one is false. Now 13 is a factor of 0. So this is the other way around. Now 13 multiplied by 0 does give you 0. So this one is true. So you have to be very careful with the way that the definition is worded and follow it exactly the way it is worded. And the example below is kind of no different from that. It says 0 is a factor of 0. So 0 times 0 does give you 0. So that one is true. Now this one I want to pause at for a moment. Some mathematicians call this vertical symbol here divides. I prefer the word factor. And the reason why I prefer the word factor over divides is because divide is very close to divided by. So when we write a slash like that, we often mean that we're taking a number, let's say 0, and dividing it by another number, if it's 0, for example. So that would be the divided by operation. Whereas the bar is 0 is a factor of 0. Now it's kind of goofy because if you say divides here, you could say 0 divides 0 is true, but 0 divided by 0 is undefined. So that's why I prefer the language is a factor of for the vertical bar versus the language of divides. But you will find divides used very often in mathematical text as well. So the next one, we have n is a factor of 0. So we're not told what the value of n is. It's just any integer. So here, n multiplied by 0 can indeed give you 0. So that one is true. Okay, so next up we have 0 multiplied by something is supposed to give us n. But 0 multiplied by anything is just going to give us 0. So we're only going to get n when n itself is 0. But we're not told that n is 0. It's just any number that's out there. So we do have to say that this one is false. It could be true, but only on one scenario. And we don't have that information to say it's true because we don't know that n is 0. We're just told that n is any integer. Okay, 1 is a factor of n. So you can say that 1 times n gives you n. So that's true. Okay, so next up we have minus 1 is a factor of n. So minus 1 can indeed be multiplied by minus n to give you n. So that one is true as well. Okay, the last one, 2, is a factor of n. So this time we have to again consider 2 multiplied by any number. I'm just going to make up another one called m and kind of think about, well, do I get n? Well, only if n is an even number, but we're not told that n is an even number. We're just told that it's any integer. So in general, this does not work and it's false. Remember, if it's true sometimes and not true other times, we say that the statement is false. Because if we're writing down a statement in mathematics, we want that statement to always be true if we're claiming it's true. Okay, so if we look above, which two integers are factors of every integer? Okay, so factors of every integer, that would be cases where it's true and we had any integer on the right-hand side. So these two cases here. So in this case, we have plus 1 and minus 1. They are factors of every integer. Which integer is a multiple of every integer? So in this case, we look for a true scenario where we have an integer that's a multiple of every other integer. So 0 is the answer in this case. All right, so what is next? Next, we're going to look at how to find all of the factors of a given number. Now, a very helpful tool to find all of the factors is to find the square root of the given number. Now, if you don't have a calculator, there is some techniques that we can use to find the square root, and it just involves squaring numbers. So if we want the square root of 105, let's try to square some numbers that we might know, like 8 squared is 64. So that's maybe too small, but 9 squared is 81. Well, we're getting closer to 105. So 10 squared, that's 100. And then finally, 11 squared brings us over 105 because 11 squared is 121. So the square root of 105 is in between 10 and 11. And to answer this type of problem, that's all we need. To find all the factors, we just need an estimate of where that square root is. And we're going to categorize our square roots below as the factors that are less than the square root and the factors that are above the square root. So we're looking for numbers that are 10 or less to begin with. So one factor that we always get is 1. Now, each factor will also have something that pairs with it because we have to take 1 and multiply to get 105. So in this case, it's 105. Another factor of 105, if we go through, it's not 2 because 105 is an odd number, but 3 is also a factor. If you take 3 multiplied by 35. So we just need to test everything up to 10. So 4, that doesn't work because 105 is even. 5 times 21 is 105. And then if we keep testing, 6, it's not a factor. We test out 7, and we do get a factor, so 7 and 15. Testing 8, 9, and 10 do not produce factors. Okay, so notice in this problem, we just sort of ignore the negative factors. You could put a minus sign in front of all of these numbers and have negative factors. So that's why the question just specifically says positive factors, so we don't have to kind of duplicate that work. Then part C finally just asks us, does 105 have an even number of factors or an odd number of factors? Well, there's 8 in total, so that is an even number. So it turns out there's kind of 2 classes of this type of problem. This is one of the classes. We're going to now look at another class of the type of problem, and then we'll summarize it all afterwards. So this time we want to find the square root of 144. So we're looking for all the factors of 144. So from above, we did find that 11 squared was 121. So working forward, maybe we'll do 12 squared, which is 144, and that's exactly the square root. So the square root of 144 is 12. Okay, now we'll look for all the positive factors of 144. So just like above, we get 1 and 144. And this time we do have an even number, so we have 2 and 72. If you try 3, try dividing by 3, you get the factors of 3 and 48. If you try 4, that's another one that's a factor. 4 times 36 will work. 5, it's not a factor of 5, it doesn't end in a 5. 6 is a factor, 6 times 24 will work. 7 is a no if we test that one out. 8 is a yes. 8 times 18 gives me 144. Then 9 also works, 9 times 16. And we have to test up to 12. So we'll keep going. 10, it's not a factor. 11 is not a factor, but 12 is. 12 times 12. So this is the other class of problem that you could get here. Does 144 have an even number of factors or an odd number of factors? Well, the number of factors is odd because we found that there is 15 factors of the number 144. 15 is an odd number. Okay, now it's time to summarize this idea. Okay, so the number like 144 that we just found has a special name. It's called a perfect square. So perfect squares are the ones that you just square and you get this number p for perfect square out of the deal. So 2 squared is 4, so 4 is an example of a perfect square. And here's our theorem that we've come across today. Every number has an even amount of factors, positive factors, except there's an exception to that rule, the perfect squares, which have an odd amount of factors. So furthermore, if f is a factor of m, so if f is our factor and m is our multiple, and it happens to be below the square root, then m divided by f is our other factor that happens to be above the square root. So they always come in pairs. Everything below the square root pairs with one above the square root. So there's kind of a nice balance with that. So now that we've learned this, we can return to our locker problem. Let's start by writing down the first 17 lockers. And these lockers all start closed. So I'm going to change the state of all of them to begin with. I'll write a dot to change the state. Okay, now I'll change the state of every second locker. Okay, now every third, and every fourth, and every fifth, every sixth, every seventh, and every eighth, and finally every 9th, 10th, 11th, everyone gets changed one more time. Okay, so let's think about this diagram a little bit. Let's take, for example, the number 12. There's lots of dots underneath that one. So 12 has lots of factors. For example, 1 is a factor. That's when I changed every locker state. And 2 is a factor. That's when I changed every second. And 3 is a factor. That's when I changed every third. And 4 is a factor. 5 is not a factor, but 6 is a factor. And then when finally I changed every 12th locker, I changed 12 one more time. So notice that the locker number is changing one time for each of its factors. Okay, now would 12 be an open locker or a closed locker? Well, we changed the state starting at closed 6 times. So we opened and closed it, opened and closed it, and opened and closed it, so it's closed in the end. Okay, however, a locker like 16, if we look at 16, it's been changed an odd number of times. So it ends up being open. So which lockers end up being open? Well, let's circle those ones. So we get 1, 4, 9, and 16 as open. And these happen to be perfect squares, right? 1 squared or 2 squared is 4, or 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. So all of the open lockers are perfect squares. So let's write a quick little conclusion to our problem. So lockers with a perfect square are open, while all others are closed. And the reason for this is because each locker changes its state once for every one of its factors. Okay, thanks so much for listening all the way to the end, and we'll see you on the next one.